In 1943, a naval engineer named Richard James was working in a shipyard in Philadelphia. He was testing springs. Specifically, he was trying to figure out if tension springs could be used to keep sensitive equipment stable on ships. And then, one of the springs fell off his workbench. And instead of just falling, it walked. It stepped down from the bench to a stack of books, from the books to a tabletop, from the tabletop to the floor, coiling and uncoiling in a perfect fluid cascade. Richard James stood there and watched. Then he picked it up and did it again. He went home that night and told his wife Betty, "I think I can make a toy out of this." She thought for a moment, and then she opened the dictionary. She found a word, Slinky, Swedish and Norwegian for sleek, sinuous, and stealthy. That was it. That was the whole invention. A spring that fell off a shelf, and a wife with a dictionary. Here's the thing about the Slinky as a toy concept. It makes no sense on paper. It doesn't do anything. There are no characters, there's no game, there's no story. It's a metal coil that walks down the stairs and bounces. That's the entire product. Richard and Betty James needed money to manufacture it. They needed to convince someone, anyone, that a spring was a marketable toy for children. In 1945, against established toy companies with real products, they scraped together $500, had 400 Slinkies manufactured, and did something that seems obvious now, but was actually a bold gamble for 1945. They convinced Gimbels department store in Philadelphia to let them demonstrate the toy in person on the sales floor. Not display it, demonstrate it. Show people what it actually did. Richard James set up a small inclined plane, put a Slinky on top, let it walk down. They sold all 400 Slinkies in 90 minutes. The Slinky became one of the best-selling toys in America almost immediately. The jingle, "What walks downstairs, alone or in pairs," became one of the most recognized advertising songs in history. Sorry I didn't sing it. By the time the 1960s rolled around, the Slinky was a cultural institution. And then, Richard James joined a religious cult. In the early 1960s, Richard James became heavily involved with a religious organization in Bolivia. He donated enormous sums of the company's money to the organization. He eventually abandoned his family, his wife Betty, and their 6 children, and moved to Bolivia permanently. He left Betty with the company, the debts, and essentially nothing else. She was a homemaker. She had never run a business. The company was nearly bankrupt. Betty James took over. She had no business training. She had no management experience. She moved the company to Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, cut costs, renegotiated deals, and got the Slinky back on shelves. She ran James Industries for the next 41 years. 300 million Slinkies have been sold since 1945. If you stretch them all end to end, they would circle the Earth 150 times. The original design has never been changed. The Slinky you can buy today is made on the same equipment, to the same specifications as the one Richard James made from that falling spring in 1943. In 1985, NASA sent Slinkies to space to study how they behave in zero gravity. The answer, in case you're curious, is beautifully. They stretch out and float in ways they can't on Earth. In the year 2000, the Slinky was inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame. In 2001, Pennsylvania, where the Slinky was invented, made it its official state toy. A spring that fell off a shelf is an official state symbol. certified by actual government. That is Slinky's legacy. In 1998, Betty James sold James Industries to Poof Products. She was 77 years old. Before she sold it, she made sure of one thing: the Slinky would continue to be made in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, the town that had been its home since she moved it there to save it. She didn't want to manufacture overseas. She didn't want the jobs to leave. The factory is still there today, still making Slinkies, still in Pennsylvania. Betty James passed away in 2008. The obituaries called her a businesswoman and a philanthropist. She had donated millions to her community over the years. She never talked much about what Richard did. She just kept making the toy for 41 years. There's something I love about the Slinky that I can't fully explain. Every other product in this series changed the world in some massive, complicated structural way. Airbnb rewired how people travel, Nike changed sportswear forever, Post-it notes were in literally every office on Earth. The Slinky just makes people happy. It has no utility, it solves no problem, it just walks down the stairs in that satisfying, hypnotic way and reminds you for a second that physics is actually kind of magical. Richard James found it by accident. Betty James saved it twice. 300 million people bought it. And somewhere right now, there's a kid at the top of a staircase doing exactly what Richard James did in that shipyard in 1943, watching a spring walk down and thinking, without knowing why, that this is one of the best things they've ever seen. Some inventions change the world, some inventions just make it a little more fun. The Slinky is the second kind, and I think we need both.